सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। श्री गीता ध्यानम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्धत्तामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्रा येन त्वया भारततल्यपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवैत्रेकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरननन् कैवर्तककेशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम्। लोके सज्जन षट्परैरहरः पीपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारत पंकजं कलिमला प्रध्वंसिन श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Hari Om. So today, along with Amrita, with me is Yashpal also, and there he is. Yep.
And that's Amrita.
Yeah. And Yashpal and I start driving together tomorrow. Okay, so let's get started. I think today we'll finish early. We don't have too much to cover today, but then we have our, the Aarti and all of that also. So Bhagavan is enlightening us about his Vibhuti. And from verses 21 to 38, he enlists them. We have covered almost all of them. We have another 3 more verses to go from a Vibhuti listing point of view. And he actually enumerates 75 Vibhutis through these verses. And these are 75 thoughts for seekers like us, people who are on the path of Jnana Yoga, on the path of Bhakti Yoga, These are 75 thoughts to meditate upon. We can actually choose any of those 75 that appeals to us and meditate upon that if we choose to. And to also get integrated, to intensify our integration and to get sharper in terms of our single pointedness, in terms of our focus. We spoke about all of these aspects, right? The Chitta Shuddhi, Chitta Ekagratha. Through integration will come Chitta Shuddhi, which is purity of the mind. And also Chitta Ekagratha, which is single pointedness. And that will become much more sharper. So 75 independent exercises in meditation are listed right there in Bhagavad Gita for us to focus on. So let's continue with verse 36.
Dyutam chalayatam-asmi.
Dyutam chalayatam-asmi.
Tejas tejasvinamaham.
Tejas tejasvinamaham.
Jayosmi vyavasayosmi.
Jayosmi vyavasayosmi.
Sattvam sattvavatamaham.
Sattvam sattvavatamaham.
Dyutam chalayatam-asmi. Tejas tejasvinamaham. Jayosmi vyavasayosmi. Sattvam sattvavatamaham.
Dyutam chalayatam-asmi. Of the fraudulent, I am gambling. So Bhagavan is actually picking up the highlights of all spheres of activity, all spheres of human activity or creative activity. Activity that's part of creation. I don't mean the creative capability, but activities that are part of creation. So we know that employment of deceptive means and games in life is pretty common. It's quite common. We see them, witness that all around us. And gambling is one vice that can actually completely change one's entire life, and not just one person's entire life, even the connected lives also. It has that kind of potential to completely impact, affect, change. And I'm not being judgmental here, change entire lives together. What better example could Bhagavan give than that of Arjuna, a person who suffered because of his elder brother's addiction to the game of dice. Even he was not addicted, or he did not play the game of dice. He didn't even probably have the time to play the game of dice. But Arjuna went through a lot of suffering because of Yudhishthira's addiction to the game of dice. And what better example could Bhagavan give him, who is his student, and through him to all of us. Funny that I spent 11 years of my life working in the gambling industry. That's funny. Yeah. And there was a time about 8-10 years back when I spoke to Swami Tejomayananda, was heading Chinmaya Mission at that time. And I said, Swamiji, it's what I'm doing wrong, because I'm working in an industry that actually promotes gambling. But I found solace in two aspects. One was that during the time that we were all part of this industry, we also brought out change in the industry itself. It moved away from gambling to gaming. So it's more of, when you visit Las Vegas or Macau today, it is not really for gambling and, putting at stake, but more what you carry, your money, your riches. But it is more towards, entertainment. Like you could spend those rupees or dollars in a ski slope in Switzerland, or you can spend it traveling to the Himalayas, or you can go to Vegas or Macau and spend it there. It depends on choice. So it's become more of gaming. So a little bit of solace there. And the other was that, of course, we were doing engineering. We were not, we were doing the tech part of it, the engineering part of it. So that was also another solace. But yes, for a period of time, I was like, is this wrong then to work in this industry? But at the end of the day, I convinced myself in various ways that it was not really wrong. But essentially what we are trying to say here is that, see, cosmic intelligence is available for both the noble and the ignoble. We have to figure out what is noble, what is ignoble. It is in our hands, it is in our minds. We need to figure out according to the times, according to the, conditions, and according to the current Kali Yuga, so to say, right? So is it noble, is it ignoble? But that intelligence is available for both. How we use that intelligence is up to us. Tejas tejasvinamaham. brilliance of the brilliant I am. So see even Bhagwan, how he combines, all of these, right? Brilliance of the brilliant I am. Tejas is also the original word for splendor. One who uses the cosmic intelligence for meditation, one who uses the cosmic intelligence for spiritualistic pursuit. We have seen that multiple times, irrespective of the vocation. When you get deep into your vocation, it turns into spiritualism on its own. It turns into devotion on its own. So one who uses cosmic intelligence for a spiritual pursuit, that person develops a brilliance that shines through, that shines forth. And that is that inherent splendor. Sometimes you can actually say that you notice a halo around that person. So deep is that person's involvement to that level of spirituality in whatever that person is doing, right? And that brilliance, Bhagavan says, automatically that person will be brilliant in exposition of what that person is doing. When whatever job you may be doing, you may be making a presentation, you may be hitting a tennis shot, you may be climbing the hills, you may be, designing a rocket or a home or a house, but their brilliance shines forth in any activity that you do with that level of devotion. And Bhagavan says that that brilliance I am. Jayosmi, Vyavasayosmi. I am victory, I am effort. So victory consists of elimination of the bad and establishment of the good. Anytime bad gets eliminated or annihilated and good gets established, that is termed as victory. And effort is determined pursuit of the good. So when you pursue something that is good with doggedness, with determination, that is effort. And Bhagavan says, I am victory, I am effort. Sattvam Sattvavatamaham. The goodness of the good I am. Sattva here is referring to or in reference to the good. Though all gunas, the tamasic guna, the rajasic and the sattvic, all the three gunas, they are constituents of prakriti, they are constituents of nature. Everything is made up of tamas, rajas and sattva, but sattva alone takes one towards God. Rajas and tamas do not take one towards God. It is only sattva that takes one towards God. And Bhagavan says, I am the goodness of the good. I am the sattvam of the sattva. And then he continues in verse 37.
Vrishninam Vasudevosmi.
Vrishninam Vasudevosmi.
Pandavanam Dhananjayah.
Pandavanam Dhananjayah.
Muninamapyaham Vyasaha.
Muninamapyaham Vyasaha.
Kavinamushana Kavihi.
Kavinamushana Kavihi.
Vrishninam Vasudevosmi. Pandavanam Dhananjayah. Muninamapyaham Vyasaha. Kavinamushana Kavihi.
Vrishninam Vasudevosmi. Among the Vrishnis, I am Vasudeva. The Yadavas, the clan of people, the Yadavas, they have come from the Vrishni inheritance or the Vrishni race. That's where they are descendants from. Hence, they are called Vrishnis. And Krishna is the son of Vasudeva or Vasudev. That's why he's called Vasudeva. Krishna, being the son of Vasudev, is Vasudeva. And he says, among the Vrishnis, I am Vasudeva. So here, he's referring to his own avatar. He's talking about himself. Vasudeva, that Krishna who is standing in front of Arjuna. That Krishna who is reciting the Gita or delivering the Gita for the first time ever, through whom we are learning. He is referring to that avatar. Pandavanam Dhananjaya. Among the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Now look at the beauty of this. Okay. So we all know how or why Arjuna is called Dhananjaya. One who victoriously has won a lot of wealth and then uses it for good purpose is Dhananjaya. And when Pandavas won the Mahabharata war and they established their own kingdom, they Yudhishthira performed the yajna and Dhananjaya or Arjuna was the one who was responsible to get the other kingdoms to abide by Yudhishthira. And when other kingdoms and kings abide by Yudhishthira, they donate or they contribute a lot of wealth. And the victorious king uses that wealth for the welfare of the people, doesn't put that wealth in his or her pocket, uses it for the people only. So utilization is also important. Dhananjaya is one who not only gains wealth, but utilizes that wealth for overall welfare, for good purpose. That is Dhananjaya. And Bhagwan here is saying to Arjuna that among Pandavas, Arjuna, I am Dhananjaya. He is not saying it to Yudhishthira that he is Dhananjaya. He is not saying to Arjuna that he is Yudhishthira. He is saying to Arjuna that I am you. So imagine, I'm pretty sure Arjuna would have got goosebumps out there. He would have felt so thrilled, because we also know that by now Arjuna's sense of devotion to Krishna has reached a very high level, a pinnacle. He's also started seeing the Ishvara part of his friend, his charioteer. He's seeing that Ishvara part of his friend and his charioteer. And with that, not only is his love for Krishna was always there, but now there is also respect and devotion. Love and respect together combined to form devotion. So that respect, and along with that love and that increased love, has now got to devotion for Arjuna. And for Krishna to tell him that I am you among Pandavas, that must be absolutely a blessing for him. The Pandavas themselves are blessed. And Arjuna, or the blessed among the blessed, is indeed a privilege. Muninam apyaham Vyasaha. Among the Munis, I am Vyasa. Munis are essentially reflective geniuses, people who reflect, people who go deep down, people who contemplate, people who think so much about their experience, both the outward experience and the inward experience. They contemplate on that, they soak it up, they reflect, they go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and then finally bring out treasures from their reflection for the benefit of all of mankind and all of creation. Such people are called Munis. And Bhagavan says that among such I am Vyasa. Why? Because Vyasa is a perfect sage. Vyasa is a perfect example. Sage Vyasa is the one who, through his reflections, compiled the 4 Vedas, which after centuries, humanity is still reading and deriving benefit from it. He wrote the 18 Puranas. He wrote the Mahabharata. And within the Mahabharata, he also compiled the Bhagavad Gita. And so much more in terms of literature that Sage Vyasa did. And that is why Bhagavan says that I am Sage Vyasa among the Munis. So in this verse, Bhagavan has done something really beautiful, up till now. What has he done? He has spoken about, first he spoke about Vasudeva, which is himself. Okay. Then he spoke about Dhananjaya, which is Arjuna. And then he spoke about Vyasa, Sage Vyasa. So he has spoken about the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita. He's spoken about the student of the Bhagavad Gita. And he's spoken about the author of the Bhagavad Gita, the compiler of the Bhagavad Gita. So all 3 he has covered in this verse, which we are reading. So it's a beautiful verse. And then he says, Kavinam Ushana Kavihi. Among the seers, I am Ushana. One who has intuitive knowledge is called a Kavi. Intuitive knowledge of anything, intuitive knowledge of that person's expertise. That intuitive knowledge is called a Kavi. One who sees beyond the beyond. One who is able to imagine. A beautiful example that my Guru Swami Advayananda ji gives is, we go to the beach, we look at the sunset, and we are thrilled. We say how beautiful it is. A Kavi will say that the sun is kissing the ocean and the ocean is blushing. So, that kind of a thought that is beyond. The actual meaning of Kavi is seer, and later on got kind of expanded to include poets. And Ushana, also known as Shukracharya, he had the power to bring back anything into life. Shukracharya was actually the guru of the Asuras, and that is why Asuras used to dominate their battles against the Devas, because Shukracharya would immediately bring them back to life. And Bhagavan continues.
Dando damayatam
Dando damayatam asmi.
Nitirasmi jigishatam
Nitirasmi jigishatam.
Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam
Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam.
Jnanam jnanavatamaham
Jnanam jnanavatamaham.
Dando damayatam Nitirasmi jigishatam Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam Jnanam jnanavatamaham.
Dando damayatam asmi. Among punishers, I am the scepter. The scepter is like that stick, you would have seen the policemen or, generals in the army. They carry that, it's a cane. It's there actually in my study table upstairs. I should have got it for this. It's this cane which people of authority carry. Okay. And that is what it is. It's a symbol of justice and it's a symbol of measured punishment. Measured punishment and justice, what does it mean? That after receiving the punishment, even the punished feels that it was just and fair. They don't feel that they have been, punished, or they don't feel that it was unfair or they were being harmed or anything like that. The accused, the punished, also feel that it was just and fair. And that is justice and measured punishment. And that is the symbol. It's not the symbol of authority. It's something that people of authority carry, but it's not the symbol of authority. It's the symbol of measured punishment, is the symbol of justice. The case has been justly handled. I deserve what I got, that kind of a thing. Like Yashpal was telling me yesterday that Sikh troops, they'll go and do all kinds of crazy things and then they will get the beating also, they'll happily take it because they know that they deserve it. So punishment justly delivered, right? So this is a method that not only reforms the convict, because that's kind of a punishment, that kind of a justice which is given, not only reforms the convict, but it also sets an example. It's a lesson for the general public, for the common man. And that is what this signifies, the spectrum. Additionally, it is also known that, calamities, diseases, COVID, okay, those kind of experiences that humanity goes through, these are punishments that are meted out by nature for all kinds of irregularities in life. The various irregularities that we experience and see in life and we ignore, they then force nature to mete out this kind of a punishment. And that's also the spectrum. And Bhagavan says that's what that I am. Niti Rasmi Jigishatam. Among those who seek victory, I am statesmanship. Statesmen always employ the right way, the right method. When you employ the right way, the right method to do what you're doing, that is when you are known as a statesman. And statesmanship is born out of niti. Any victory by a wrong method will not be long lasting. It will have limited results. Not only will it have limited results, it will lead to complications. So niti or statesmanship is known to be something that ultimately establishes victory. And remember, we discussed when Bhagavan said that victory is establishment of the good. So that statesmanship I am. Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam. Among secrets, I am silence. So secret is that which is not known to some people for certain reasons. People don't get to know about it because of an associated reason. To know a secret or to be knowledgeable of something, to not have a secret, requires two things. One is the availability of the information itself. If the information is itself not available, it's guarded. For example, defense matters, okay, external affairs, some other state matters, government matters, they are guarded against sharing or being openly accessible to people. There are a lot of things that are purposely guarded against. So that time, in those cases, information is not even available. Confidential is what we say, right? Secret, confidential. So those kind of things, that is one reason why something remains secret. The other reason why something could remain secret is because of the interest, the inclination, the capability to acquire an understanding of that available information in the person. So if I don't have the capability to understand external affairs matters, it will remain secret for me. If I don't have the interest to understand external affairs matters, it will remain a secret. So one is availability of the information, the other is receptiveness, if I can put all of that together in one word. Similarly, God knowledge remains a secret to those who do not have thirst for the sacred knowledge. This is true for any field, so obviously it is true for God knowledge also. So any knowledge that we attain comes after the thirst for that knowledge. If we don't have thirst for that knowledge will not come, we won't acquire it. So similarly, God knowledge will come if we have the thirst for that God knowledge. Additionally, God knowledge will come only to the pure heart. If we are having malicious intentions within our heart, within our mind, then God knowledge will not come. Like we discussed earlier, right? Including the Uddhava Gita story, where Uddhava challenges Krishna. You know? So Bhagavan is there with us. He is a witness, but he is not a mute witness. He is there. And once we acknowledge him, once we recognize him, automatically the purity starts coming. Otherwise, there is so much in the environment out there for us to get sucked into helplessly. You know, we don't have to do it intentionally. Without any intention, without any meaning, without any actual, scheming or planning towards it, we can get helplessly sucked into all kinds of negative activities or areas or tendencies, just because there is so much of that magnetic pull out there. But bringing in that sense of godliness within us, that sense of thought about Bhagavan within us, that then helps us attain a pure heart. And then God knowledge is not a secret to such people. Nature, the other part Bhagavan says is, I am Maunam. So nature is ever in vibration. Okay, we talked about Om, right? It's ever in vibration. If that vibration stops, everything ceases. And whenever something vibrates, there is sound. So nature, essentially, by nature, nature is sound. By nature, nature is not silence. But Brahman is silence. Bhagavan is silence. That motionless silence or mauna, that I am, says Bhagavan. Mauna also comes from manana. Manana, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Manana needs to Nididhyasana or meditation. Manana is also contemplation. Manana includes questioning, asking questions. So in the learning process, you first Shravana. Shravana is listening, acquiring information. Manana is contemplating and asking and clarifying your doubts. And then Nididhyasana is diving in, deeply meditating into what you have acquired, what the knowledge that you have acquired. So manana or contemplation is also comes from mauna. So Bhagavan says, among secrets, I am mauna. Jnanam jnanavatamaham. I am knowledge of the knowers and the wisdom of the wise. Basically, it means the same. Knowledge of the knowers, wisdom of the wise. Knowledge is also book knowledge. Wisdom is book knowledge plus experiential knowledge. So something which you have heard, something which you have read, and also something which you have experienced. When the inside of you says, aha, now I know, now I understand. That is wisdom. Bhagavan says, I am the knowledge of the knower and the wisdom of the wise. To the knowers of Brahman, to those who, we just talked about it, to those who contemplate, those who seek, those who move Godward, those who bring in focus on the divinity within, to those knowers of Brahman, nothing is more eloquent than Brahman. You will often find that devotees are, they just go into raptures, right? Because there is so much of that eloquence. Nothing is more eloquent than that God. And to the ignorant, nothing is more secret than that God. So the knower knows it eloquently. The one who doesn't know, it remains a secret. So when there is the triad of the knower, the knowledge, and the known, all three come together, there is enlightenment. True for any subject, anything that I know, I am the knower, I know something, and the known, whatever I know. Similarly, true for the aspects of spirituality. True for the vibhutis of Bhagavan. So in this manner, Bhagavan has pointed out his glorious manifestations, his vibhutis. And now he concludes the chapter. So we'll go to the next verse.
Yachapi sarva bhutanam
Yachapi sarva bhutanam
bijam tadaham arjuna
bijam tadaham arjuna
na tadasti vina yatyan
na tadasti vina yatsyan
maya bhutam characharam
maya bhutam characharam
yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam tadaham arjuna na tadasti vina yatyan maya bhutam characharam.
Cha, Bhagavan starts with the end. And cha, and yat, which, api is, bijam, seed, sarva bhutanam, of all beings, tad, that, aham, I am, Arjuna, O Arjuna. Whatever is the seed of all beings, that I am, O Arjuna. And then he continues, he says, there, tad, there, asti is, na, no, or not. Bhutan, being. Characharam, moving or unmoving. Yat, which. Sayat or sayat or sayan, may be or exists. Vina, without. Maya, me or without my vibhuti. So there is no being, moving or unmoving, that can exist without me. So Bhagavan is saying, and O Arjuna, and whatever is the seed of beings, that I am, and there is no being, moving or unmoving, that can exist without me. So Bhagavan identifies himself here with the total causal bodies of the world. The inherent tendencies of everything, the vasanas, we read about the vasanas earlier, the inherent tendencies of all elements of creation, of all creatures. He identifies himself. I am that. Which is what? The inherent tendencies of all creatures is nothing but Ishvara. So Bhagavan is saying, I am that Ishvara. He declares himself as that one seed from which all of this samsara has sprung forth. From all of this has come about. And to prevent a misconception, what misconception? See, by what he has said, that I am that one seed of all that you see. Typically what happens when seed is the kind of that inherent tendency, that capability, and from that seed springs forth whatever springs forth. Whether it's an embryo from which a living being comes or whether it's a seed from which a plant comes. Once that plant comes, the seed is not there. So do we then, there is a misconception risk that we say, once creation comes and Bhagavan is not there. Is that possible? So to arrest that, Bhagavan immediately adds, none can exist without me, neither the moving nor the unmoving, non-moving. So this is that kind of a seed which once it springs forth into creation, it continues to run that creation. The pregnant condition of potential energy, that emerges out and expresses itself in various ways, depending on what that potential energy is, at the right time, in the right manner. And that potential energy is what is referred to as Hiranyagarbha, another name of Brahma. And Bhagavan says, I am that. And he continues.
Nantosti mama divyanam
Nantosti mama divyanam
vibhutinam parantapa
vibhutinam parantapa
esha tuddeshata proktaha
esha tuddeshata proktaha
vibhutir vistaro maya
vibhutir vistaro maya
नान्तोऽस्ति मम दिव्यानां विभूतीनां परन्तप एष तुद्देशतः प्रोक्तः विभूतिर्विस्तरो मया
Na, no, antah, end, asti, two, mama, my, divyanam, divine, vibhutinam, glories, parantapa, O scorcher of force, one who burns enemies. He addresses Arjuna like that. Esha, this, to indeed, uddeshatah, brief exposition, proktah, that has been stated, maya, by me, vistaraha, elaborately, vibhutihi, of the glories. So Bhagavan says, there is no end to my divine glories, O scorcher of force. This is only a brief exposition by me of my divine, of my elaborate glories. See, Arjuna had asked, please explain to me elaborately. And Bhagavan said in the beginning itself, there is no end to my glories. I will pick and choose certain elements which I will share with you, knowing which you will begin to see divinity everywhere. That is how Bhagavan started, right? So that's what Bhagavan is saying here again. He is reinforcing that. He's saying, while there is no end to my divine glories, and what I have shared with you elaborately is only but a brief explanation. So it's like the mother hen, it walks over the food, kind of points the way for the chicks to see where the food is. And the chicks pick up the food by themselves and they start biting in the grains. So the mother hen doesn't take and feed the chicks like human mother does. Actually, even a calf or a cow doesn't do that. They just point to the baby. And the baby is smart enough to pick up and feed themselves. Likewise, the way of recognizing divinity is pointed out by Bhagavan. So he just gives us a pointer. The sadhaka or the practitioner, the aspirant, that aspirant then gains cognition of God in these various elements, these 75 vibhutis that Bhagavan has pointed out. And then gaining that cognition starts getting deeper and deeper into the spiritual path. The act of seeking God evolves into the act of seeing God. You first seek and then you actually see. Actually, there is one more element in between. I'm talking about searching and seeking. Okay. So let us take the example. I have given this example earlier. It just came to my mind. So my car keys. Okay. So I need to go on this drive tomorrow. I need to get into the car. I'm seeking the car key. Okay. I don't remember where it is. Or for example, once when it happened, I think in the satsang also, my glasses were here and I was looking for my glasses, right? So you are seeking something that you need, something that you want, something that you aspire to get. And then you start searching for it. Once you know that you have it, once I know that I have this aspect of Godhood with me, I acknowledge it, I recognize it. If I don't even acknowledge it, if I don't even recognize it, then samsara is beautiful, no? It's such a beautiful creation of God. I can dive into it and experience samsara. But once I seek God and I have sought and I have seen that, yes, there is God, then I search for that God within. And when you search for that God within, then you find and you see. So that's that beautiful process that Bhagavan is talking about here. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, and I quote, plodding along from Gaumukh to Ganga Sagar. Gaumukh, the source of Ganges, beautiful place, everybody should trek there, to Ganga Sagar, another beautiful place. Tough to go actually to the estuary where the Ganges meets the ocean, but possible, some elements of it you see in India also, right? So plodding from Gaumukh to Ganga Sagar need not be gone through to experience the divinity of this mighty river. Contact with this sacred river at any convenient spot along its beautiful length solves the purpose or serves the purpose, unquote. So if all this was only a sample, Bhagavan says this elaborate is nothing but a sample, right? If all this was only a sample, then how would we understand, how would we decipher, how would we experience his glories? So Bhagavan gives the essence of the vibhutis in the last two verses. We'll go to verse 41.
Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam
Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam
Shri madurjitameva va
Shri madurjitameva va
tattadevavagachatvam
tattadevavagachatvam
mama tejomsha sambhavam
mama tejomsha sambhavam
yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam Shri madurjitameva va tattadevavagachatvam mama tejomsha sambhavam.
So va in yad, whatever, whichever, whatever. Vibhuti mat, glorious. Sattvam, experiences. Srimad, prosperous. Urjitame, powerful. Prosperous va or urjitame, powerful. Tattad, that. Eva, as. Vagacha, no, please no. You, Tvam. Tejom Shashambhavam. They are a manifestation, Mama. Mama Tejom Shashambhavam. They are a manifestation of a part of my splendor. In whatever glorious experience, whatever it may be, glorious experience, prosperous, powerful, that you know as a manifestation of a part of my splendor. This will be the sadhana for this chapter. Whatever we experience, whatever it may be, that glorious experience, when there is glory associated with it, that glorious experience we should recognize as a small little part of Bhagavan's splendor. Like light reveals things upon which it shines. So we saw so many examples also, including the Alvar story, right? When the light shines upon something, it reveals what it was. That was hidden earlier because there was not enough light or there was darkness. But light and the thing that the light reveals are two different things. Light is different from what it reveals. But God is self-revealed. While everything is revealed by light, God is self-revealed. He manifests himself in everything. He manifests himself as the glory, as the brilliance, as the splendor, as the beauty, as the power, and so many other aspects. And Bhagavan says that you catch. These elements you catch. And when you catch that, whatever your imagination is able to catch, draws your attention, sends you into raptures, and then infuses bliss. You look at it, you capture, get drawn towards it. When you get drawn towards it, you get attracted towards it, sends you into raptures, then brings in bliss. That is nothing but the glory of God. And Bhagavan continues in the last verse.
Athava bahunaitena
Athava bahunaitena
Himnyatena tavarjuna
himnyatena tavarjuna
Vishtapyahamidam krishnam
Vishtabhyahamidam kritsnam
Ekamshena stito jagat
Eshamshena stito jagat
Athava bahunaitena Himnyatena tavarjuna Vishtapyahamidam krishnam Ekamshena stito jagat.
So Bhagavan is now saying, Athava, or, Kim, how? Nyatena, can you know? Tava, of my, of, Tava is of implied, like my glories. That's what we are talking about here. Oh Arjuna. Bahunaitena, in so many ways. How can you get to know in so many ways? or do you really need to know in so many ways, is also what he's saying here. Okay. Aham, I, sthitaha, exist, vishtabhyaha, supporting, idam, this, kritsnam, entire, jagat, creation, ekamkshena, by one fraction of me. So Bhagavan is saying, oh Arjuna, or think of it this way, oh Arjuna. How can you know of my glories in so many ways? I have described to you elaborately as asked by you. But then that is also extremely brief. It doesn't cover even a small little fraction of what I am. Now I will say to you in one sentence, so that you can easily understand. He says, I support existing the entire creation by just a small part of me. So Bhagavan uses two terms here. One is Bahuna. Bahuna means many. One here, one there, here and there and everywhere. Here, there and everywhere. It's a beautiful Beatles song, by the way. Okay. So all this here, there and everywhere. All of that is Bahuna, all of creation. And then he says, Ekam Shena, one small part, one small fraction of me. So this one small little fraction of me is supporting all this here, there. And I exist supporting all of this. And know this, know me in this manner. Again, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, and I quote, God is with form, without form, and also transcending all of this. So he is with form, without form, and transcending with and without form. He alone knows who and what he is. So with this, we come to the end of chapter 10. So our sadhana for this chapter, seeing Bhagavan's vibhutis, experiencing the glories, experiencing the magnificence in whatever we experience. Bhagavan has given us 75, elements on which we can meditate if required. If we need to meditate, if we need that help, Bhagavan has given. We can start that way. Once we start that way, we will find our own another 75 into x into multiple number of ways. And then it will come to a stage where whatever we see, we experience that divinity. So the sadhana for this chapter is that we try and identify divinity around us. Hari Om, thank you. We'll repeat the verses and then we'll Tatsaditi and then sadhana.
So verses 36 to 42 of chapter 10. Dyutam chalayatam-asmi tejasvinamaham jayosmi vyavasayosmi sattvam sattvatamaham Krishninam vasudevosmi Pandavanam dhananjayah Muninam apyaham vyasaha Kavinamushana kavihi Dando damayatam-asmi Nitirasmi jigishatam Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam Jnanam jnanavatamaham Yachapi sarvabhutanam Nijam tadaham arjuna Natadasti vinayatyan Maya bhutam characharam Nandosmi mama divyanam Vibhutinam parantapa Esha tuddhitaha Vibhute visnado maya Yadyat vibhuti matsatvam Srimadurjitameva va Tattadeva vagachatvam Mama tejumsha sambhavam Athava bahunaitena Kim nyatena savajuna Vishtapyahamidam krishnam Ekamshena sthito jagat Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastri Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvadi Vibhuti Yogo Nama Dashamodhyayah.
Yeah. So the learnings and practice or the sadhana. So for each chapter we have identified, we'll quickly revise. Chapter 1, watch for shoka and moha. Remove them. In fact, I will also, this time when I was going through writing the sadhanas, I thought maybe we should add, although it comes in chapter 2, but chapter 2 verse 7 is where Arjuna actually seeks. He says, Bhagavan, you please tell me, I am your Shishya. Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. So first you acknowledge. So he acknowledges actually. Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha. Prichhami tvam dharma sammuda cheta. Yachre yashreyan nishchitam bruhi kanme. Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. So he says, I have shoka, I have moha. Because of that shoka moha, I have this karpanya dosha. Because of which I am not able to determine what my duty is. What should I do? What should I not do? What is right? What is wrong? I am lost, O Krishna. I accept you as my Guru. Please teach me. So that is the first sadhana for us. You know, we at various stages in our life, we have to first acknowledge and understand that we are lost, that we don't know, because of which we are getting shoka, because of which we are getting deluded. Shoka is sorrow, moha is delusion. So once we are able to identify and acknowledge, then we seek help. And when we seek help, we are able to. That is the first sadhana. Identify, seek help, get rid of it. Remove them. Chapter 2, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Maintain equipoise in extremities. It is a fact that the world, the samsara, will throw extreme situations at you. That you cannot prevent. It will happen. Maintain equipoise in those extremities. Chapter 3, Samachara. Perform your actions, perform your duties with utmost devotion, dedication, perfection. Samachara. Chapter 4, Karmanya Karmanya Praschet. Not being the doer while doing. How do you do that? By seeing inaction in action. So learn to see inaction in action. That way you can be not the doer while doing. Karmanya Karmanya Paschet. We have to practice this. Chapter 5, Padma Patram Ivam Bhasa. Just like a lotus petal in the water, sometimes mucky water, is untouched by the water, even though it lives within it. Similarly, be in the realm of worldly experiences, but be untouched by the worldly experiences. While being in contact with them, while experiencing them, while responding to them, be untouched. Detached involvement. Padma Patram Ivam Bhasa. Chapter 6, Mam Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Chamai Pashyati. Mam Pashyati Sarvatra, sees me everywhere. Vibhuti, no? Chapter 10 also same thing comes back. Sees me everywhere. Sarvam Chamai Pashyati, sees everything in me. Actually, there's a gap. You know, I don't know why I did this, okay, but I'm going to do it. So there's a gap, but chapter 11, Bhagavan will show everything in him. You know, so Bhagavan is saying, be patient. I'll come back and show everything after 3 months. Okay. So practice this when in meditation. Practice what? Seeing me, seeing Bhagavan everywhere and seeing everything in Bhagavan. Practice that when meditating. Chapter 7, Natvaham Teshu Te Mahi. Chapter 7, we identified 2 sadhanas. Natvaham Teshu Te Mahi. Indeed, I am not in them. They are in me. I am not in elements of creation. They are in me. Let's maintain the awareness of this. The pure consciousness is untouched in the midst of varied thoughts. That also Bhagavan is telling us to practice, no? Padma Patram Ivam Bhasa. He is actually telling us that I am like that naturally. You also practice and be like that. Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Maniganayana. All the variety is strung in me, just like gems in a string. So we should learn to see Bhagavan in that manner. Everything is strung, and that string which brings together everything is Bhagavan. Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Maniganayana. Chapter 8, Sarveshu Kaleshu, which means at all times, every single moment, of your life. Mamanasmara yudhyacha. Remember me and perform your actions, perform your duties. Every single moment of your lives, remember me and perform your actions. Chapter 9. Yat karoshi tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, that you do as an offering to me. So first Bhagavan says, remember, so I mean, this we are taking a sadhana, so our sequence. So, you know, remember me at all times, perform your duties, remembering me. And then he says, offer them to me. Whatever you do, offer it to me. And in that chapter, if you remember, Bhagavan said that if you offer it to me, it's impossible that you will do something wrong. Anything that you offer it to me and feel good offering it to me and doing, that is good. Chapter 10, Yadyat Vibhuti Mat Sattvam. That is this chapter. Mama Tejom Shashambhavam. Whatever glorious experience that you go through, whatever it may be, please see that, know that it is a manifestation of a part of my splendor. Anything that is absolutely magnificent, we get blown away by it. It envelops us. It's only a small part of Bhagavan and that glory of his. That's what it is. So those are our sadhanas for the 10 chapters. Thank you. Hari Om. We will do Bhagavad Gita Aarti and then a quick brief admin / question answers.
Yeah. Closing prayers and then the Aarti. Om Asatu Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Bhagavad
Gita Aarti. Om Jaya
Bhagavad
Gita.
Gita.
Maya
Maya
Jaya
Bhagavad Gita.
Hariya Kamala Viharini. Hariya Kamala Viharini. Sundara Supunite. Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita. Karma Sumarma Prakashini. Kama Shadhara.
Maya Kama Shakti
Tattva-jnana-vikashini, Tattva-jnana-vikashini, Vidya Brahmavara. Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita. Nischala Bhakti Vidayini, Nirmala Malahari. Maya Nirmala Malahari. Sharana Rahasya Pradayini, Sharana Rahasya Pradayini, Sabhividhi Sukakari. Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita. Ragadesha Vidarini, Karini Moda Sada, Maya Karini Moda Sada. Bhava Bhaya Harini Tarini, Bhava Bhaya Harini Tarini, Paramananda Prada. Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita. Asura Bhava Vinashini, Nashini Tamarajani, Maya Nashini Tamarajani. Devi Sadgunadayini, Devi Sadgunadayini, Hari Rasika Sajani. Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita. Samata Tyaga Sikhavani, Hari Mukha Ki Bani, Maya Hari Mukha Ki Bani. Sakala Shastra Ki Swamini, Sakala Shastra Ki Swamini, Shrutiyo Ki Rani. Om Jaya Bhagavad Gita. दया सुधा भरसाविनी मातु कृपा कीजे, मैया मातु कृपा कीजे। हरि पद प्रेम दान कर, हरि पद प्रेम दान कर, अपनो कर लीजे। ओम जय भगवत गीते, ओम जय भगवत गीते, मैया जय भगवत गीते। हरि कमल विहारिणी, हरि कमल विहारिणी, सुंदर सुपुनीते। ओम जय भगवत गीते, ओम जय भगवत गीते, ओम जय भगवत गीते।
Thank you. Hari Om. Radhika, good to see you for the entire satsang. And also video was on, so I can focus on something. Otherwise, Sarika, I have to look. Otherwise, it's all black.
Today was off for me. So, but I do have a question for you.
Yes, yeah.
You mentioned that people with malicious intent won't get God knowledge. And
People with malicious intent, then I got knowledge, I know. In between, I missed.
Yes, that's correct. People with malicious intent will not get.
Will not get.
Okay. Correct. So that's what you said. I know a couple of them, and they're very good with Puranas. They're very good with all these sacred scripts and all that. But by nature, they're very abrasive. Now, what kind of knowledge they don't have? Because for me, as I know them, they know as like facts and information-wise, they know everything. But somewhere, I don't understand this.
Sure. Yeah. So, see, what is malicious intent? What is, so there are two, let's divide this into two aspects. One aspect is when we say people with malicious intent. I don't remember now whether I used exactly the same sequence or whatever, but yeah, I understand the context. So malicious intent could be the lack of interest in that knowledge. That where I don't respect that knowledge, I don't want that knowledge, I'm not interested in that knowledge. So for example, I said, if I'm not interested in knowing about external affairs, if I'm not interested in knowing about the Mars rover, then I will not know about the Mars rover. It will remain a secret to me. Okay, it will always remain a secret. So that is one aspect of this quote unquote, you may not term it as malicious actual definition, but there is lack of interest, there is lack of respect for that knowledge. Same thing with the spiritual knowledge. For us to develop knowledge about God, for us to internalize God, for us to seek and search and see God, we have to first have that interest and seek. Only then it will come. That is one aspect. The other aspect is people with malicious intent in terms of what you are referring to, where they have other quote unquote sin. See, sin is defined as a mental disturbance. Okay, sin is when the mind is disturbed by a negative thought, negative emotion, negative feeling. That is a sin. So if there is negativity within, okay, now I may be extremely interested in acquiring some knowledge, because of which I may acquire that knowledge. But then there is some negativity. That negativity could be in the form of ego, that negativity could be in form of some other malicious intent, that negativity could be in form of disrespect of other human beings, or whatever it may be. Okay, I have acquired the information, I have acquired the knowledge, but I have this negativity. So that negativity will prevent me from actually getting to a stage where I see God within me. It's very true, right? Because if I have that negativity, where is, at the end of the day, we all say, Bhagavan also says that Aham Atma Gudakesha. That's how he started this chapter. When Bhagavan started speaking, I am within you. But if I have malicious intent within me, then where is, where are we familiarizing ourselves with that Bhagavan who is within us? That is not happening. So the two of them don't go with each other. That is what it simply means. So anyone who has that kind of quote unquote malicious intent, And if the focus is on the malicious intent, if there is impurity in the water, then the water is not pure. It's as simple as that. Similarly, when there is impurity in the mind, because Bhagavan is pure, when there is impurity in the mind, the pureness doesn't express itself simply because the impurity veils it. When the impurity goes away is when the veiling will go away. And Bhagavan actually talks about earlier 3 categories of veiling. Something which is very like a smoke veils a fire, it can be blown away very easily by a wind, by a small breeze also. But a womb, which covers the baby, the garbha, there it takes a long time for that veiling to go away. So, so depending on the kind of impurity which is in the mind, it could go away quickly or go away late. But only when the impurity goes away will that divinity come forth.
I got it. Thanks.
That is true for anyone. That is up to them, I mean, there are lots of very learned people who are like that, right? But that's okay.
Can I continue with what she's saying?
Yes, Rama.
This is where the difference between knowledge and wisdom comes in, which you explained. You're knowledgeable, but you're not wise to use that knowledge. I want to give you an example because a person may be very knowledgeable on scriptures. I go to him to learn his knowledge, but not beyond that. I'm not worried about what he is or whether he is arrogant. Because once, I don't want to name the Swamiji, he's very nice, very intelligent, one of the best Swamijis we have now who give discourses. He was talking about in one of the Bhagavad Gita, how to control temper. And a little child ran across, a 10 or 11-year-old child, suddenly stopped with a stern face and 5 minutes, he just stared, showing his anger. Then I realized, what is he teaching us? He's teaching us how to control temper, but he's showing his temper. But then I later realized he's parting a knowledge, which I'm going to learn the knowledge. Whether he has learned from that knowledge is immaterial to me. Did you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, correct.
Absolutely. Yes, that is true. And what you said is right, Rama, wisdom. See, experiential knowledge, that aha effect, that comes over a period of time. When we all start learning, when we all start going through, it doesn't mean we won't make mistakes. We will make mistakes. So for us to get to that level of perfection where we don't get mistakes, it's a journey. But maybe that Swamiji is also trying. He's also in that journey. At what level in that journey, what maturity in that journey, that he only knows and Bhagavan knows. Yeah. We are nobody to judge. Okay, so
but we know he knows the subject well and he's teaching us. That's about it. So.
And one of the best ways to get rid of impurities is to know that it is there. Yeah. I am reading Bhagavad Gita, I am talking about Bhagavad Gita. I know that I have a lot of issues with myself. But if I know and acknowledge, and then over a period of next few years, they will go away.
And another question I have, you spoke, Bhagavan says the other extremes. He's a gambler. One extreme shows that, he's the best of the worst. Okay. And then he is the best of the best. The 2 extremes. And then you said he is silence. But I can't, these 2 I can understand. When you say he is silence, what does that mean?
He says that among secrets, I'm silence.
Among secrets. Okay, I got that.
Yeah. So that is what he says. But also there's one more interpretation that I touched upon. So one is among secrets and silence. So, so what Bhagavan is saying is that what is secret? Secret is something where there is no information about it or where there is no interest. So remember Bhagavan says, I am a witness. I am there. I am a silent witness. So I am a maunam silent witness. So he is there. He is very much there. It is up to us to imbibe him. All of these in that way are connected. That is one part of it. The other part of silence is, which is an interpretation, is that, the universe is vibrating all the time, which means that there is sound. And Bhagavan says that I am that silent Brahman. That unmoving, motionless, silent Brahman. That is an interpretation. But here in the verse itself, strictly speaking, Bhagavan is not talking about, that silence. Bhagavan is saying, among secrets, I am silence.
Thank you. It's an
And
interesting session.
Bhagavan says, Muninam Apyaham Vyasaha. Today is Vyasa Purnima and Guru Purnima.
Correct.
It's a nice coincidence.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yashpal is
Vyasa.
At one place, you spoke about Shravan, contemplation, Manan. So there is something known as Chintan also. So how do they fit in? How the Chintan fit in all this Shravan, Manan, and say contemplation?
So when you are saying Chintan, please give the meaning of that, because Chintan can be used in. So what is Chintan?
That is Chintan is contemplation.
Correct.
I mean, Chintan, I'm maybe thinking of God, how God created this universe. Chintan, what is God? Something of that sort. What is say Bhagavad
Yes.
Gita?
So-
So then if the Chintan is this, then
So-
what is Manan?
So to answer you, your Chintan, what you are saying, is a lesser maturity of Manan. You start with Chintan and then go to Manan.
That's what. Okay, that's what.
It's the same, another
Manan,
word.
Manan, that means Manan becomes, you know something.
Chintan
and doing
becomes
something. Chintan is again that thing. I think seeking. We talked about seeking also, searching and seeking also. So is it Chintan is searching and like you said, Chintan is searching and what is that? Manan is seeking, or either way, other way. Because they're all mixed up over things. Chintan Guru, Manan Guru.
Manan, so let me put it this way, Chintan and Manan are the same.
Okay.
It is the initial parts of contemplation.
Hmm.
Nididhyasanam is deeper meditation. Nididhyasanam is soaking. So Chintan and Manan happens before you get the knowledge. Nididhyasanam happens after you get the knowledge.
Finally,
You
this leads to.
So Chintan, my favorite example is Gulab Jamun. Okay. So Chintan and Manan is when the dough is separate from the syrup. Nididhyasanam is when the dough gets into the syrup and starts seeping in. So when the dough gets to know this, when the ball of dough gets to know the syrup, it starts absorbing the syrup. So when you know, once you have become a jnani, then you sit with that knowledge and contemplate, meditate on the knowledge that you already know. That is Nididhyasanam. Chintan and Manan are before you know, while you are reading, while you are a student, while you are
So
inquiring.
Nididhya Ashram, that means that stage of where you gulp your Gulab Jamun. So you soaked in.
No, I'm not bringing in me in Gulab Jamun. I'm talking about the Gulab Jamun and the syrup, where it absorbs, where the dough absorbs. So similarly, I absorb.
So this is one place. So you absorb what? About
What I know.
okay.
What I already know, I go through again and again and again. See, Chintan, or another way to put it is, Chintan is me thinking about it. Mananam also includes me thinking and asking. So for example, I have read about Vibhutis. Okay, 75 Vibhutis are there. Okay, so I think about those Vibhutis. That is, I'm doing the Chintan within me. Manan is where I go and ask. So Bhagavan says that, I am so and so, there are so 75 things. He says, what does that mean? What does that mean? That is also included in questioning, is included in Manana. In the learning process is what I described it. The first is Shravanam, when you listen, when you imbibe, then Manan, where you contemplate and ask, and then Nididhyasana, where you go deeper and meditate upon what you know.
Thank you so much.
So I put it on the group. I just want to re-emphasize with you all. So thank you for that cooperation. So how I'll do the revision, and I think almost everyone, maybe someone has not got back to me, may not be appreciating it, but whoever has got back to me has said that this is a great idea, and we'd love to have this kind of a revision. So obviously there's no forcing. We are not in a classroom or anything. I'm not teacher, you're not student. It's not that way. We are all sharing. So I will be on a weekly basis sharing questionnaires. Please do complete. To the extent possible, you go back and revise the notes and the recordings, and then come and do answer the questionnaire. That's my request to you. it will be definitely worth it. And as we go into chapter 11 and beyond, see, chapter 11, this is a good stage to do that, because Bhagavan is now going to actually talk about, he talked about his vibhuti. Now he is going to talk about all the elements being within him, and for us to understand and appreciate those kind of statements that are now going to come from Bhagavan. And then in section 3, for us to understand, put together the knowledge of the self and the knowledge of Bhagavan together to a meaningful conclusion in our spiritual process. Revision will be tremendously helpful. Trust me about that. Please, even I revise every single time. So please do follow that question. I think it will be very, very helpful, extremely helpful. See, we know that even the most learned of saints, they argue about whether you merge with Bhagavan or whether you go to his feet, or you are different from Bhagavan, Bhagavan is different, you are different. Even the most learned, they argue, right? So for us, we are not even probably as learned as those who argue. They have, like Radhika said, they have all the information. But obviously, they are still fighting and debating about it. Bhagavan doesn't care, How does he worry about it? So for us to understand, so some of the things that are going to come now, the gunas, Bhagavan's gunas, all of these are going to be more and more technical. So it will be very good to do a revision so that we understand the future chapters in a much better and more easily also. So my request is to please go through the questionnaires and attempt. Please do attempt. Don't ignore them. Please find time. Yes, sir.
You have given very concentrated thoughts. My submission is dogmatic, doctrinaire interpretations must be avoided. Dogmatic, doctrinaire interpretations lead to intense egoism, religious fanaticism. Religious fanaticism leads to religious nationalism. And all that results in ultimate conflict and fault. So the purpose, even Bhagavan tried his best to avoid the Mahabharata war. He tried his best, but he could not prevent the evil minds from contesting. So what we have to do, let us not be, in that court of Duryodhan, dogmatism was not there, Mahabharata battle would not have taken place. Dogmatic, doctrinaire approach is very sectarian and very fanatic, and it leads to clash and faults. That's what I feel. You are going on a self-discovery, spiritual discovery in a very risky weather. Wish you all the best. Be cautious and be precautious. This is the rainy season, a season of landslides. Please observe all precautions. That's what I will beg of you and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, sir. On the second part, yes, thank you very much. We'll be very cautious and careful, not take any undue risk. Like you said, it is more for spiritual enfoldment, not anything else. And on the first part, 100%, absolutely. When spirituality becomes religion is where the problems start coming. So, yeah, you expressed it extremely well. So there's no improvement in what you said. Thank you very much for that. Upasana put it in the chat. I don't know if everybody read it. Without Sharmaji's words of wisdom, the satsang seems incomplete. So I'm just reading it. So that
that's very generous of you, very magnanimous of you. I'm a person with a little mind.
Okay, if no other points, thanks to my mother for reminding. Today's Guru Purnima, Vyasa Jayanti. So with best wishes and prayers to everyone so that your learning is all blessed indeed. Thank you very much. Hari Om. And now for the next few weeks, assessments or assignments or questionnaires, and then we'll come back to chapter 11.
सर आपको गुरु पूर्णिमा का प्रणाम. आप हमारे गुरु हैं गीता के.
नहीं, आप भी मेरे गुरु हैं. हम दोनों एक दूसरे. आप भी मेरे गुरु.
विशेष प्रणाम आपको. आज के लिए।
Thank you. आपको Thank you all. Hari Om.